5 years ago, I didn't feel as young as I do now. So,
Mm.
so you're absolutely correct. I felt probably a lot older than what I was, but very conscious that, for me, it's about my kids, and I look around what I have here and now, and of course the gratitude of that. But then it's the opportunity. Well, how can I make that shine even more, and what can I do even now, moving forward? This was 2 years ago before I met you. What steps can I take that's going to set me up for success moving forward?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of From Information to Transformation, where I take this opportunity to interview some of my stellar patients. These are individuals who have taken the courage to break the mold of their past and try and recreate themselves. Today, I have with me Rodney. Rodney and I met about just over 2 years, or about 2 years, I would say. And I felt Rodney had that spark and that energy when I met him about something unusual about himself. He wanted to go about and do things. So I felt that, Rod would be the best person to describe that himself. And I want to thank you, Rod, for taking out time from your busy schedule to share a bit of this life journey with us, because we don't know who'd be listening to this and who might take inspiration from this conversation. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And let's get straight into it, if that's all right. Would you like to just introduce yourself, Rod?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, my name's Rodney. Um, a dad of two young boys. Well, used to be young, but they're getting bigger every day. And yes, so very much a family man, busy like any other normal 48-year-old man. So lots of things happening within our household.
Oh, beautiful. And Rod, can I just ask, you're in the IT industry, right?
Yes, yes.
Beautiful. So I want to begin by maybe asking you that you and I met for the first time in maybe about a year and a half ago and about 18 months ago. Can I ask you, what was it that was driving you to come and see a surgeon, and what was happening with the weight? Because that was your biggest issue, I believe.
That's right. Listen, it's been something that's like anything. I think for me, uh, I've always been, I guess, on the heavier side. I used to play rugby many years ago at a decent high level, and from that, like anything, I met a beautiful lady, and when we got married and we had kids, and of course, everything gets in the way, and in a sense, which is great, we live very busy lives, and we also try to find time to look after ourselves. But for me, it was never achieving anything for my weight, and I found it increasingly getting heavier as the years gone past. So it got the stage. I think whenever I peaked it, probably in round. I think when I came to you, I might have been 154 maybe, or 150. I certainly was at my heaviest. 160 was certainly my heaviest, and from that then I was very unhappy for many years. Unhappy because I found I was just struggling to achieve basic things as far as my health. Even how I sleep and how I operate, and even the things like right down to what I wear, challenges all the
And I
time.
think you mentioned that because of being a rugby player, you had experienced some injuries as well.
Yes,
And that was creating more of an issue, right?
that's right. That's right. And the weight with the injury, of course, and the injuries, and I have to say, have really improved my injuries now. So it's from where I am now. I no longer am injured. I feel more, I guess, more free than I ever have. So certainly that was a big thing with the injury then. And the niggles on top of that, with including the additional weight, certainly made it very challenging for me moving forward. Yeah.
You're a fairly tall man, like at 190 centimeters. You
Yeah.
you kind of, hide it pretty well. But were there any medical issues as well, Rod, that were beginning to creep in? Like I understand the general, sort of lack of energy and all of those things and not feeling good about yourself. But did you feel that it was holding you back in your day-to-day interactions in any way?
Absolutely. I mean, there was lots of things that was holding me back as far as, even as I said, even from career opportunities. I found that having the confidence within myself to look at roles and certain roles within my industry moving forward was probably going to challenge me, I guess, even with my weight and my size. And that has gives you a bit of a consciousness to maybe hold you back from moving forward, and more importantly, even giving you that energy of thinking, could I even apply and look to that move in there? So for me, certainly, it started holding me back as far as my courage and my confidence, but more importantly, I think even my drive, my inner self, and my self belief started to probably doubt what I could do.
Yeah. And that's something that I know you and I have spoken about it individually, but that's something that I have started to notice, that in men who are touching that middle age. I was having a conversation with another gentleman who was just like this on the camera. I was interviewing him, and the same issue came up, that by middle age, we men start to go through a bit of a change. It's just like menopause. Women
That's
go
right.
through menopause. We go through a mental pause, I call it. It's not
Sure.
menopause, it's mental pause. We are recreating because we are looking for that next level challenge, maybe.
That's right.
Was that something that you were experiencing too? Or I know you're not 50 years yet, but at
Yeah.
least, it's that range that we're talking about. You're still young, very young.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, for me, I think I always think and feel as if I'm still 30, although I feel younger now than I ever have. But certainly 5 years ago, I didn't feel as young as I do now. So,
Mm,
so you're absolutely correct. I felt probably a lot older than what I was, but very conscious that for me, it's about my kids, and I look around what I have here and now, and of course the gratitude of that. But then it's the opportunity. Well, how can I make that shine even more, and what can I do even now moving forward? This was 2 years ago before I met you. What steps can I take that's going to set me up for success moving forward?
yeah.
And albeit some big steps and big choices had been made, not just for myself, but very inclusive with my wife as well, just to make sure it was right for everybody. But I mean, I was certainly the driver of that, and I just felt changes needed to happen,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
if we
yeah,
didn't,
yeah.
then big things
And I think a lot of people also start to think about the legacy aspect of it. What are we going to leave behind? How am I going to be a role model for my kids? Like you talk often about your sons and how active, like I'm a dad too. And I think we just start to think about those things. So I guess, Rod, moving forward, what made you think about surgery then? I'm sure you would have tried diet, and I know men are not good at dieting. We just aren't, we're not built for dieting. Women do dieting a lot better than we do. So what made you think about surgery, and what were your fears at that stage?
Yeah, I think the diets, I've tried every diet, and I wouldn't be the first to say that, I'm sure. And some of them had good success, very temporary. And of course, like anything, you take 10 off, you will put 12 back on, and it'll arrive
Mm,
before you know. But for me, I just had enough of the guess of the challenge and the struggle, and the commitment that comes with that. And of course, I demonstrated over many years that the diets just wasn't going to work. So I needed to take bigger steps, in a way, take it out of my hands and put, I guess, get support from something else that's going to help me drive the goals. And that doesn't mean to say that I want to shy away from my part of the challenge, uh,
mm,
and we move on to that maybe. But if for me was, I needed help and support to get me up and running with this, and then I'm happy to kick in and pay my part of the challenge along the way. So I did have a gentleman I knew that came through yourself, and just through conversation. And again, like you mentioned this, men, we're not very good at speaking and talking and acknowledging these things,
mm.
and speaking about what steps we need to take. I mean, where is the telltale sign? What stage does it take before we make that decision? So now is the day, or now is the time I make that call. And for me, I probably dwelled quite a bit on it, probably for a few months. Uh,
Mm.
but then I did put some steps in place from I guess from a health insurance, just to financially support it as well, was going to be the struggle. So for
Yeah.
me, it was a bit of a goal at the beginning to try that, but it was very much an important investment to make.
And I think I remember meeting you around. You were reasonably clear about what surgery could and could not do for you. Like
Yes,
surgery will give you that push, but it won't tell you that have the salad and not the chocolate cake.
That's right.
and
That's right.
and that is entirely an individual's decision. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think clearly, so your heaviest was 160, and last time, Rod, that I can I ask you, how heavy are you today, or what do you weigh today?
Yeah, I'm 86 kilos today. So I went myself out
Wow.
yesterday. Yeah, I did a fun run yesterday with the kids in an area where I did a 10K part of that run, but I weighed myself.
Sorry, Rod, I lost you briefly. Can you repeat that last bit? You were just a little bit further away from the mic, I believe.
Yeah, so I weighed myself yesterday. I don't tend to weigh myself now. It's not something I even think about doing. So
Yeah.
I weighed myself out of curiosity yesterday, and I was 86 kilos. So I usually sit between 85 to 87 kilos as my current weight.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And how can I ask you, what were the changes that you were going through mentally that allowed you to cope with this change, this rapid change, like going down from 160 kilos to
Mm.
86, like you almost lost 75 kilos. That's a,
Yes.
that's a lot of weight with a gastric sleeve and to lose over that period
Mm.
of time. How did you cope with that? What was going on in your head?
I think I needed to adapt pretty quickly. I think I'm very lucky. I've got a very supportive wife who encouraged me, and we had these conversations before the operation to make sure that we were on the same page. I think it's important as men. We also need to consider our partners here. And for me, I was always very making sure that she was kept in the loop of what the changes were. In fact, she was more knowledgeable than I was. So I think
Mm,
as changes happen for me, it also changes for them as well too, because they see the transformation happening. And it's only now when we look back at photographs even from 2 or 3 years ago, which isn't that long ago, really,
no.
that the transformation is there. So you take stock quite quickly. But I have to say, once I was able to and fit and able to, I wanted to pay my part of the deal was to get back into the exercise and what I used to enjoy doing at a good level. And I'm probably more active now than I ever have been. Even this morning, I got up this morning at 5:30, and I did a 12K run this morning, and I do that every other morning. Every other morning. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's very different. And I think this has promoted my transformation quicker than ever. So yeah, and that's why we've had probably results quicker than normal, maybe. But
Yeah, I think you were very driven, which is something which you have used to your advantage.
yes,
You have not only been driven, but you have been very fortunate to have a good partner who supports you and understands you. And I think you raise a very valid point that we can all do it all on ourselves, whenever there's a challenge that strikes us. But I think to be able to share that journey and to be able to have somebody who supports you and you support them, like there's a mutually, I call it like a mutually nurturing sort of association. It doesn't have to be overpowering, but you just need to know that there is somebody who understands me, is a
that's right.
really big part of this whole process, right?
It is, and it's all about knowledge. I mean, we speak about this a lot, but knowledge is king. And when you're informed, and I guess you understand what the changes can be, and like anything, I'm a strong believer that you're only going to get out what you put in. So if you
Yeah.
if you don't put, I mean, the results will be there. I think naturally, obviously they will, and it restricts in certain areas. But for me, I've adapted to it really quickly, and it's something that I really enjoy now. It's not even something I acknowledge and consider
Yeah.
and think about. I've got a routine when it comes to my food and my fitness, and if I miss a day with the fitness, that's okay. If I miss something out, that's okay as well.
You
So
don't beat yourself up on that.
no, you can't put too much pressure on. I'm a strong believer. We're here for a good time, not a massively long time.
Yeah, I say that, when I met you, you came across as a very tough man, but you have a very gentle heart. So
Yeah.
it's really good to sort of, see that aspect of you. I
Yes.
think one thing that I would acknowledge, Rod, is that, when we go through journey and when men go through this journey, sometimes we find ourselves all alone.
Mm.
Regardless of whether it's weight issues, health issues, financial issues, what do you say, like having gone through this journey on your own, what would you say to someone, say a close friend of yours who may be listening to this conversation, who is single, who has found himself to be just on his own and has got, what would you say to that friend of yours? How could
I
he
think
overcome?
Yeah, I think I would say and that would be a different experience. I think for me, it's important to understand that you need to look at what you want out of the life we have. And I mentioned earlier on, my grandfather would say to me many times to enjoy every day, because sometimes can be taken away from us very quickly. So gratitude is really important for me. But for those people, I guess, who are got to that stage where maybe they are on their own, and that's common, I guess,
Yeah,
to be able to have that courage to say, well, what can I do for me? Because the rewards and I guess for me is I look at the euphoria when I do some of my runs just now, and I've got some big runs that are coming up very soon. And my last half marathon for this year is next Sunday in Melbourne. But when I finish the line, and I think about, and the first thing I look is my time and my pace, and I'm
yes,
considering my heart rate and these things I would never have considered before, where now it's
yeah,
important to me because we want to achieve something better or maybe a second or two faster. But
yeah.
definitely, I think to not hold back, I think consider it. Yes, there's going to be moments, there's going to be something you have to going to consider, but this is an
Mm.
investment. I think this could be one of your best investments you could ever make, and it could pay you back some serious dividends in the
And
future.
I really feel that self-care or self-love is the first form of actually giving love to others. If you
Yeah,
don't have love to give, well, what do you have then,
that's right. That's right.
And I think that's where it all starts.
I agree, because I mean, I probably fell into that trap, and my wife told me this, where maybe I wasn't liking myself as much back then. I probably had fell out of love with me, and I
Mm.
didn't like who I was because I turned into this person that I'd never thought I would be, and not that it was deliberate. It just happens, and it
Yeah.
happens easily.
Yeah.
So to take control and knowing that there's support, and knowing that we can try and try and try, but if that doesn't work, well, what is the other solutions? Because there is solutions there. But I firmly believe that you need to work with it, and you need to, obviously, for me, my as I said to you in a few times, is my part of the deal was to, once the surgery was over, was to take control back with me. And because you've done your part and you've given us the education and the knowledge, and I still glimpse through your books from time to time and get inspiration from them. But for me, the biggest part is it's the ripple effect through my family, and that's the bit that I really enjoy the most. And even now, I don't need to speak to my kids, but they see me putting on my trainers. Where are you going? And before I know, they're now coming to run with me, and I'm not even asking them to run. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
becomes a little bit of a ripple effect. Organically, it happens. So that's really great to
And I
see.
think what you're saying is we got to be better role models, right? You
I
reach an
believe.
age and stage in your life where people are looking at you. And if you were to continue how you were in your pre-surgical sort of state,
Yeah.
like, you were an overweight dad, you were not feeling happy with yourself, you'd get grumpy. I'm not saying you necessarily did, but we tend to get grumpy as, if we're not happy with ourselves. And that's not being a great role model, right?
No, and listen, I don't get it right all the time.
No, neither do I.
I'm far from perfect, but I certainly acknowledge that, and I have to say I've came a long way now, and I've still got more to go, but
Oh,
I'm certainly a lot more patient now and more understanding,
yeah.
and I guess maybe not accepting, maybe accepting less is better, and working together. But I
Yeah.
think it's really using that. The drive, and I think, and having that vision that there's something great can come here, but you're going to
Yeah.
have to work with it, and you don't need to give a lot of effort and work. I'm probably just slightly more different, where I am a little bit more focused than normal, but I set myself some higher goals, but that's
And
typical
that's your
me.
strength, Rod. That's your strength, That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think what you have shared just now, there are lots of golden nuggets in there, Rod. And I think anybody who's listening to this conversation would truly feel that, we are talking about this from having gone through this our own selves. Like I've had different challenges to you.
Yeah.
So, we all have different challenges, but there is growth in that challenge. Look at where you are today. And I
Yeah.
feel when see people like yourself, I feel inspired, truly. You are an inspiration to me. So, it's basically we are all learning from each other. We are all connected in that bigger way. So, Rod, we are coming to the end of this conversation. I know you're busy and you got things to do, and so am I. Any last final message for anybody who may be listening to this chat?
Mm.
Anything you might want to share?
Yeah, I think my message is quite simple, that if you believe in yourself, and you're worth every dollar of that, and more and more. And I think we need to be kind to ourselves and look after ourselves, but I think we also need to invest in ourselves. And sometimes we struggle to get to the stage where we want to go, and even if it's meeting some basic goals, they're hard. Trust me, I've had many of tears just trying to find basic clothes to wear. Now I've got a new wardrobe, so that's different. I've got many choices now, which is great. But even the basic things like that can be soul destroying, if I'm honest. So I
Yeah.
think it's important to know that there is an option, and it's a great option. And my experience with you has been absolutely fantastic, as far as from the pre right through to our conversations after that, and to have the opportunity to hopefully maybe share this, and if it inspires even one person, say, well, we can give this a go, and we can look at this, and I can guarantee you will definitely enjoy the experience, and but you will have it will be one of the best investments you will ever make for you in your life, I believe.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
awesome. That's really good. Rod, we would really love to have some photos. I know you've sent us some photos of, you running the marathons, and that is so inspiring. And thank you so much, Rod. I want to thank you for this time, the honesty and the authenticity with which you have, excuse me, discussed you're part of that life journey, which is so important for you. And I can sense you're such a confident, and you radiate that calmness about yourself,
Mm.
which is really inspiring. So thank you again, Rod, for your time.
No problem. Thank you very much.